Hello, my name is Corey Barlog, director of God of War, and if you have not played God of War, spoilers abound. Go away. Come back after you finish playing, and then I'll give you a little insight on how we made the game. So here we are getting ready for the stranger fight, the big opening for the new God of War. I love the sequence that brings us in. You know, this
thing was trying to kill us.
lesson from Kratos, this idea that, yes, I'm terrible at controlling my anger, but I need you to do as I say, not as I do.
I haven't been sick in a long time.
There's this moment in Tree of Life where Brad Pitt is teaching his kids how to throw a punch, which kind of is born, this moment is born of that idea of something. So Kratos getting down on Atreus' level, Atreus being fairly disinterested and getting engaged further and further as Kratos continues to try to antagonize him. And this really is to illustrate how crap of a father he is in the beginning, right? Like, he is trying to give him a good lesson, but he's just really not that great at it.
Your anger.
And this was another sequence where the lighting did not come online until very late, and I was so worried. I knew that the lighting group was going to make something amazing, but it's really scary as you get into release year, only a few months off, and we're still waiting in the queue for the lighting on this, which is such an important sequence. The stranger arrives.
No use hiding anymore.
This is a hard character to cast. We took a long time trying to find the right person for this, and I was looking everywhere, high and low, to find somebody that was going to come in and really make a choice, you know. And I was using the example in a lot of the auditions with everybody of saying, you know, I want something similar to the choice that Benicio del Toro made in Usual Suspects. That he came in and he said, I'm going to play this character, you know, that nobody can understand what he's saying. He speaks really fast, his accent's super thick, and you know, he's got a little bit of a slowness to him, and then, you know, just everyone struggles with trying to understand him. But I didn't want them to mimic, you know, Benicio. I wanted them to come up with something interesting. And Jeremy, you know, I had a phone call with him early on, and he kind of just gave me a bunch of ideas of what he was thinking immediately, and I knew right away. I was like, this is it. This is the right guy. I can't believe he's taking my phone calls. He is an incredible, incredible human. And what he brought was so much beyond what was on the page. It pushed us to actually go back and rewrite a lot of times just because his performance was so good. We have a lot of people asking for close-ups of his tattoos, which I thought was kind of interesting. A lot of people want to get his tattoos, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I was thinking about actually getting one of his tattoos as well. So what I love about this whole setup is it's the classic sort of mistaken identity. That Kratos is right to believe that it's all about him. Right? Obviously, they found him, and, you know, how did they find him? But the reality is nobody that plays this ever suspects anything differently. They take in the history of what God of War was and assume bad guys showing up, all about Kratos. Goes to show you that there's always something below the surface.
I warned you.
Finally. I really wanted him to get knocked way back, like, so you could see the power of Kratos, really see him belt him back, but the distance he would have to travel in the no-cut camera was so long that we ended up really making it more shallow, because it was just unrealistic. That he'd be walking for like 5 minutes.
My turn.
I love the expression on people's faces when they see this for the first time, when they've been unspoiled relatively, to see Kratos get knocked over the house. Like, it's such a great, that's the surprise and delight of what this whole opening boss fight was about. You know, we talked about, oh, God of War, it's, you know, we have these huge opening moments to the fights. We have these gargantuan bosses at every game. We went bigger and bigger and bigger. We kind of got into this scale arms race with ourselves. And I said, we have to give ourselves permission on this one to not participate in the arms race anymore. We have to put a reset, you know, put a moratorium on it, and focus on circumventing the expectations of the player. That the opening level by this point, you're emotionally invested. You know, if we've done our job right, you're emotionally invested, so you kind of feel like you do want to make sure this guy doesn't get in the house, doesn't get to Atreus. But then as it escalates, and escalates, you're sort of taken aback. Like, really? Is it still going? Like, the feedback we kept getting, and we were still looking for the right length. So this fight was probably 3 times as long, 2 or 3 times as long as it ended up in the final game. So many different stages that we had, and we just were picking, oh, that stage is not working anymore, we'll pull that out. And it's like figuring out the duration of time you spend in each of these stages. So the first stage, really kind of getting your feet wet, and then just having him toss you up in the air and end up on here. And when you got up here, there was the free control, so you would evade and you would punch him. But I was realizing, like, it's too early for that. We just need to get right to the point of, why are there 2 beds in there? Really start selling, like, okay, he kind of got mad, and then really lets it out. And people say, oh, there's no blood in this game. No, the blood happens when it's the most purposeful point for it to happen, because it feels far more, like, jarring. This fight, the blood that happens during this fight makes it feel so much more tactile, so much more real, and a bit more shocking. But if you had blood the whole time leading up to this, it would just be, I really didn't want the button prompt to ever come up here. I wanted people to have to sit there, and Kratos was just kind of leaning against the log. But we found that people would just sit there for quite a long time before experimenting with the button. So if you sat there for a little bit, we would actually have the button prompt come up. And all of this stuff initially was meant to be playable. So this is, this is what game development is. Lots of sacrifices. That the fight was so long and we just took so long to do it, that this whole thing was supposed to be Kratos throwing the punches, you kind of like responding to the punches, but just ran out of time to be able to do all of the fail states for every one of these moments, that we had to start scaling everything back, tossing things overboard. And I think in the end it actually worked really good for the pacing. Because that first moment of rage sparked by the fact that his son was put into jeopardy, and that sort of sets the tone for the rest of the game, something we even call back to at the end of the game. Less fun. I wonder what's on that mural behind them. Interesting. Nobody yet has seen that, and I think that's pretty cool. This that sort of first empowering moment of being in rage and just absolutely obliterating the stranger. Feels very good, but then you kind of get that sense that you don't get it forever. It runs out, and now you have to really focus on blocking and evading. So this whole fight is not only the setup for the journey of the game and to kind of introduce this character, but also really to stress evasion and blocking, especially at the proper time, so you're getting almost the parry. Super important in this game, and that you cannot survive this fight if you are not getting out of the way, if you are not blocking when he gets close to you. So we never ever miss an opportunity to help people understand how they need to be playing the game. Every step of the way is to introduce or reinforce these core mechanics so that we can introduce something after that. Because it takes several hours to really get you written into everything that we were trying to do in the game. I love this laugh. This again was going to be multiple punches that you could control, but cursed scope. And again, just these bits of blood all over them, really selling the violent nature of the fight, and not something you've seen up to this point, so you really it becomes more of a shock. I was surprised. I watched a bunch of streams of people playing the game, and I was surprised at how many people were like, oh, I don't think he's dead. Oh, that didn't do it. If he wasn't hurt by those other things, he's fine. And they would kind of circle around the thing. So I wasn't as clever as I thought I was at that point. But eventually they were like, oh, I guess he was dead. And they all kind of, I think, got that sense of he's so tired, right? It's like he hasn't had a fight like this in a long time. You get the sense that he's older, and then he's kind of shaking off the cobwebs.
When Odin sent me here, I just
This idea of they're going to be so strong, they're going to dig in so much that pressing against each other is going to split the ground, and every part of the level is going to fall off. I remember when I first talked to people about this, and there was just this idea of like, yeah, that's never going to happen. And, you know, everybody kind of made it bigger than I thought. Like, I suggested something, and I think they took it and went 1,000 steps further and just made it amazing. And our Breakables team is just astounding with the sheer volume. As I said, one of the big things about this fight is going to be the destruction of the environment. You're just going to break everything. You know, you're going to literally create a path out to go on your journey because you will split the earth open. You'll get knocked up in the air, get thrown down in the crevasse. Trees breaking everywhere, rocks shattering all over the place.
This fight is pointless. Your struggle is pointless. It didn't have to be this way.
So Kratos is just utterly covered in blood. And this, interesting, everybody started their theorizing right here when he said, I'm not like my brother. So, watching people play, oh, not like my brother, I wonder who that is, his brother. Interestingly, nobody guessed correctly who he was. Several people were utterly convinced this was Loki, and that his brother was Thor. And I think that's partially because of, you know, just pop culture, you know, understanding of Norse mythology is, we know who Thor is, we know who Loki is from Marvel. Baldur basically is just that guy who has a game, that old RPG. Playing this on the hardest difficulty is just punishing. It took me a long time. I'm not ashamed to say that I broke a controller doing it. And I won't be going back and doing it again. I love how fast he moves. And even in this early phase, you can start to see that his tattoos are glowing, a little bit blue. This is the early setup for something that will happen much later in the game, when that becomes the indicator to the player of how they need to plan their strategy against it. The color of the tattoos actually being what is he invulnerable to. That snow technology is just amazing. This was shown to me really early on. Now, several years ago, they had a test in a flat gray plain where they showed this snow tech, and I just lost it. I was like, this is amazing. We have to do this. Where else can we do this? And I just started. I went like so many steps further than they were prepared for. I think they were just like, check it out. Look what we can do. They were like, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't think we can put it everywhere in the game. This is we haven't even finished doing this yet. But I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and saying, we just got to do this because it's amazing looking. This moment right here, when Kratos does the double leg lock, pull the legs back like this, it's such a weird, like very real moment that just makes this ending to the fight feel even more just real, very tactile, and a little bit, it's just shocking, you know?
I'd hope that you, of everyone I've faced, would finally.
At one point, this L3-R3 interaction was going to be removed. It was Eric Williams who finally said, I'm done cutting all this stuff. No way. I will figure out how to make this happen. We've cut way too many interactive elements of this. And I was like, you are the greatest ever. Thank you. Because, you got to finish off the fight with some kind of specific interaction. And this idea of, look, he's so tired, right? This was really important to show that after that, it took everything out of him, right? And at one point in the script, you could hear Atreus kind of sobbing a little bit off in the distance, and that was the thing that brought him back to reality, and he kind of was following that sobbing. That would lure the player back to the house. But we found we just didn't need it, right? That we could put the player in this situation where he's just really injured, and then have this internal/external monologue, which helps you understand what's going on in his head. First time he says Faye's name.
Faye, what do I do? Our son is not ready to carry your ashes to the top of the mountain.
A little health healing right there. It's a nice little subtle indicator that at certain times that he's able to will himself to heal. Which doesn't happen throughout the game. Only at the key moments we want to.
I do not know how to do this without you.
It's a great moment of vulnerability in which nobody else is around, but he's admitting how much he doesn't understand being a parent.
But we cannot stay here.
And what we shot there and what we shot here were separated by 2 years. So you can see a slight difference in the gate because we had not connected everything back together, so everything was very separated.
I thought... You're all right.
I am all right. Come. Gather your things. We are leaving.
Yep. Right there. I just showed everybody the Blades of Chaos. So, anybody who says that we're spraying anything on them, it was right there. Showing everything, all in the beginning.
Prove me wrong.
Yes, sir.
Huh. He doesn't think he heard him. Kratos thought he was being very sly by saying prove me wrong to himself, but nope. I just love this moment of being able to end that fight, come out of the house, and you see your ultimate goal off in the distance through the trees. You see the mountain right away. Like there's just a seamless connection to everything. You just finished the fight, you come out, we let you know you finished sort of the prologue of all of this, but you see the mountain off in the distance, and that's the first thing that they talk about. And now, the thing we were so scared of, we're like, well, no one's going to know that they have to go through this path right here. They're not going to get that they have to do that, but everybody, it just felt natural. Even though when it was in gray sheet, it felt ridiculous. So it's interesting how much art and the sense of place and really good lighting can all just kind of help sell something that without the context is perhaps a little bit ludicrous. I can acknowledge that.
Did you kill him?
And I love this moment. This is the first moment that he jumps on his back and, you know, watching people when they're streaming and have that like, oh, that's so cute, right? It becomes something you just do throughout the rest of the game, but I never realized how interesting of a moment it is the first time you experience it.
Could have died. Never leave me alone again. All right?
All right.
So there you have it. A little look behind the curtain at the making of God of War. Thank you for watching.
PlayStation